You're probably wondering what this third game is. And this third game might surprise you a little bit. It involves Texas. It does involve the Texas Longhorns. Would you guys like to know who Texas is playing next week? For those of you that maybe don't follow Texas football very closely. So it's a team that's already being a Big 12 opponent. A team that was foreseen as a dark horse to win the Big 12, possibly. We're looking at the Cowboys of Wyoming. Yes, Wyoming going on the road to take on Texas. Now, I know what some of you guys might be thinking right now as we might have a little cramp in the foot. Oh, that hurts. But screw it. We Baldo. We're tough. We're built Ford tough over here. Definitely sucks though. That being said, you guys are probably wondering why I'm previewing this game. You see the lines. Texas minus 27.5 right now, according to FanDuel. The model thinks that Texas could cover it. They have them as a 40-point favorite. So why am I spending time covering this game, you're wondering? What if I told you that Wyoming is receiving votes in the AP poll right now? Would you guys know that? It's news to me. Wyoming getting some respect after winning against Texas Tech in double overtime. Now, Texas is riding high themselves. We talked about it earlier. We saw them beat Alabama on the road. And what I'm just curious about in this game more than anything is, can Texas avoid really the letdown game? Right? Because that win that Texas had last week, it's the biggest win that Texas has had in over a decade. It was a very emotional win. And we always hear at least once a year that Texas is back, allegedly. But not to be boy cry wolf here, but Texas actually might be back. There's a real chance that's actually true for the first time in over a decade. But now you got to refocus your guys. And here's the thing. It's 18 to 22-year-old guys. Mostly. We got older guys in there now. But it's still mostly 18 to 22-year-olds to the core. Can they avoid letting themselves down? Because Wyoming is not a slouch either, guys. They're really not a slouch. They beat a Texas Tech team, mind you, that ended up they beat Texas Tech. This was a team that some people were saying could win the Big 12. Like, Texas Tech was not a pushover by any means. Okay? So that's really the $1 million thing. Can they avoid that type of letdown game? Now, Texas surely has more talent than Wyoming. I don't think anyone is disputing that. But Wyoming's got some guys too. Peasley, for example, the Wyoming quarterback, 350 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. You know, if this turns to a shootout, and listen, the over-under is at 48.5. I don't know why we have the over-under that low. I think it's in the high 50s, low 60s even. Peasley is capable of getting some points on the board for Wyoming in a heartbeat too. But I'm curious to see what's the consistency at Texas, because that's going to really separate them from being this very good program and a great program. We know that Texas bare minimum is a very good program. Okay. We see after a win against Alabama, we're going to see them in the top 25 for the rest of the season, unless there's a massive collapse. But again, can Texas keep it together? They got guys on the outside. Quinn Ewers, we know what he can do. 600 yards, 6 touchdowns. Xavier Worthy, one of the most dynamic weapons in college football. Do I expect Wyoming to win this game? No, I don't. But if Texas doesn't cover, I wouldn't be the most surprised too, because it is possible that Texas could be looking ahead. I don't know what the mindset of Texas football is right now. I'm not in the locker room. But after this game, what I do know, they saw Big 12 play, and what we've seen from the college football playoff, essentially, if you want to get in, you got to win your conference. If you don't win your conference, it's almost impossible to get into the college football playoff. We only seen it done a few times in the history of the 14 playoff in that era. But what if Wyoming ends up winning, or is at least they don't win, but it's competitive? I think at that point, you got 2 Big 12 games on your schedule, 4 to non-conference. But then after that, you're almost done with non-conference play. You got 1 more against App State, which, that could be real interesting too. But after that, generally, your biggest challenge is done. You go into conference play after that. So if Wyoming wins and they just make it interesting, they make this a more competitive game. Maybe it's like Texas wins, but it's a 10 to 14 point win, not a thrashing where it's like close to 30 points like we saw in the opener against Rice, which shout out to Texas for not playing with food, by the way. I think Wyoming should absolutely be ranked in the top 25, even if they lose, but they lose close, because Wyoming has earned it. They have earned that opportunity if they make it close, though. But again, just want to reiterate, I think Texas wins this game too. I think we see a different level of consistency, but it's an intriguing game to watch out for sure. I'm curious to see how this goes down, because this is a night game too. This is an 8:00 matchup on the East Coast. So this is kicking off at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's on the Longhorn Network. So unless you're in the state of Texas, you're probably not going to be able to watch this game unless you know somebody that's got a stream or two. We don't condone that, but I'm not saying that you're right or wrong. I'm just saying that I understand. But yeah, I'm really curious with how that game turns out, because it could be a trap game. There is a possibility, and Wyoming is also getting points in the AP poll too. There are people out there that are voting Wyoming into their top 25. So keep that in the back of your mind, and we'll just keep soldiering on here on the Any Given Saturday podcast.